There was some drama this weekend, everybody. Yeah, the Atlanta have. Let's talk about it real quick. The top three leaders, Jess McClain, Emma Grace Hurley, and Edna Kurgat, made a wrong turn after a lead vehicle went off course in the final mile. The USATF Half Marathon Championship was a selection event for World Championships, and they issued this statement essentially saying USATF continues to carefully review the incident that occurred at the USATF Half Marathon Championships and resulted in the misdirection of the three athletes.
Mm.
It's a lot, guys.
Yikes.
I think it's a very layered situation because for the top three, I think you'd be, blind or just not tuned in to see that was essentially probably going to be your top three. That was the podium. But then there's another element to it with those who did not make the wrong turn. What about them? Like, are they meant to face certain consequences? Like, there's kind of a toss up in my head about it because there's so many people, elements, and aspects to consider because of the mistake by the lead vehicle.
Yeah,
Yeah, this was
that's nuts. Johnny, you probably have a lot more insight on that because you run those distances. What would it feel like to have come through 11
yeah.
point something miles in a half marathon and then find out that you ran over a half marathon and lost?
Yeah, this hits close to home, and I feel for these ladies. A lot of these folks are friends. Jess is a friend of mine, and just knowing how long and hard she's worked, and that title was in her grasp, and to have that slip away, it's this is their livelihoods. They spend their lives focused on these moments, and something like being a U.S. champion or making a world team that has real implications in your career. And for somebody like her who has been working so hard for so long, I really feel for her. It hits close to home. I have, something came to mind for me back. I forget if I was in college or high school, but running a local race, much smaller scale, but really running lights out, and one of the best races I'd ever run. It was that win was also in grasp in the same situation, a poorly marked course. I basically ran off the course, and it was short. That in that instance, I was like, it was like I thought it was like a 1 minute PR, and anyways, I had to go back, and there was money on the line, and that jubilation of like, oh my gosh, I just like set like a massive PR, and I took the win and all this money. Like, that's a really deflating feeling to go from that to that. And I think with Jess and the rest of the ladies, it's like they didn't get to experience that. They had to kind of run. I mean, I don't know the exact extra distance, but it was like significant. It was minutes, probably two minutes at least of additional running. And yeah, it's just a really unfortunate situation all around. And, prize purses is significant, thousands. I think it was $20,000
That's crazy.
on the line.
That's crazy.
And just from all those layers. And so you ask the question then, all right, so what's the right thing to do? Even if they pay out the other three ladies, I don't know that they're in a position to do that, but like, that's not going to give you the world team spot. Like, that's also a massive honor and a massive implication. And you look at the letter of the law and kind of the statements USATF made about that they need to follow their bylaws, that like, for some details here, it's like, even if the three ladies who technically won the podium deferred their spots, they have to go by rank order up to the fifth position. So even if 1 through 7 or 8 said no, we don't want we defer, you couldn't. Technically, under the way the law is written, there's really no recourse unless they kind of do something unprecedented, which honestly I think is the right thing to do. Like, this was a pretty rare exception. Even if it was halfway, if it was 10 miles, I think within the final mile here, like, I really hope that what's going to happen is that they'll kind of have kind of an emergency revision and send those rightful three ladies on to Worlds. But we're going to have to see how it pans out. It got about people very, very emotional. There's a lot of outpouring of support, and I think people are on the side of these ladies and Jess, who probably ought to have been top of that podium.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You kind of hit every nail on the head that could be hit. I just feel like it's not fair. It's not one of those it's a different situation if they cut this course. But one thing that's meant to be is they were led off the course, and they didn't just make a wrong turn. They were led the wrong way. And I know USATF essentially did have to say, it's on the local organizing committee, which in this case it was Atlanta Track Club, and it is. And you saw the head of Atlanta Track Club come out and take full responsibility. But even still, that is sport. But at the same time, when you abide by the rules within sport, you have to trust that those rules are going to be working in your favor. It's kind of like what we were talking about last week with Shepo, Masalela, who was pointing the gun in someone's face. Like we were saying that there's no rules against that, so they should let it run. But at the same time, if you're running a half marathon, the rule is you follow the lead vehicle, right? So if the lead vehicle misleads you, there needs to be some back end recourse, shouldn't there?
And you look at the video, it's an armada. It's like lead vehicle, motorcycle, photographer, car. It was like a whole fleet of like 5 vehicles that like, how could you'd be insane to like say to ignore that, especially with the adrenaline of closing in on that final mile. Like that would be an insane proposition to say I'm going to just run a different direction than the 5 different types of vehicles in front of me. Also worth noting, there's 30 turns in this course. If you're going to make the argument of like you should know this by heart, like there's a twisting and turning. It's not. That's kind of it's a lot to ask of anybody.
You're running 13.1 miles. I'm sorry. I've never run a half marathon, so I'm sure marathoners know this. You guys probably run the course, walk the course, but I don't even care if you run 50 marathons. If you are half marathons, that's a lot of running to be on fumes, trying to make a world team and expect somebody to have the cognizance to do the extra cognitive load to say, this is going that way. I should go this way because this is a course I know. You trust the official vehicles. And I feel like, we're talking in circles at this point, but it's like, I think it's just distasteful. It sucks though. I'm glad that the leader of Atlanta Track Club came out and to make that statement, taking full accountability. But I really do hope that there's some type of recourse, even if it's not necessarily reinstating them to the actual team, then financially, because there was a statement that the two of the top 3 actually did hope that the people who did finish top 3 get those spots. But I still feel like there should be some type of financial recourse because this is their livelihood.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. As updates come, we'll make sure that we'll keep you guys posted. Obviously, follow some FloTrack, and we'll update you guys as we get updated. But let's just move it forward, guys. Keely Hodgkinson also ran this weekend. She ran the 400, so a bit of an under distance for the 800-meter specialist. Let's take a look.
They peel off now into lane 1 and take the bell.
Well, that's what it comes down to, and Keely's just held off there and maintained that first.
She came through in 24 point.
And what an amazing run this is. She just looks so majestic. You would not think she is an 800-meter specialist. You would think she's a 400-meter specialist. The way she is running this race, it is so impressive.
Shown tremendous strength. An effortless run as she comes off the bend in into the home straight, leaving the others in her wake and cutting across the line. No problems at all. Louisa Stoney finishing in second place.
Yeah, so she would go on to run 51:49. She looked like a real quarter miler there. I think sometimes when you put certain athletes under their distance, they look like somebody who's running under their distance. But in this scenario, she got the cutover. She fought for the cutover early. Her stride was very open. The wheels were turning. The speed was there. I would be very curious to see her run a 400 amongst other people who would be competitive with her, because she ran that 51 point essentially by herself.
Yeah, she came through in 24 point. So, she's rolling. And if it's kind of one of those situations, you look at Femke Bol, like we were talking about how she cleaned 240 something pounds. Like she has power. She has the ability to, produce that type of rate of force development very quickly. So clearly Keely has some power under her legs too. So I would love to see her race against some of the real dogs in the quarter. Like imagine Keely versus honestly, we could say a Femke Bol over a flat 400. This is like fantasy matchups at this point. But, it'd be really cool to see that.
I want to see
There's a reason people...
Yeah.
There's a reason people say that...
Go ahead.
That's not good. That they say the 800 is one of the hardest distances, and I think this is a good illustration of why. It's kind of sits in that middle position between sprinting and long distance. And I think to be somebody at the top of that event, like you really need to showcase both. And I feel like traditionally you're usually seeing more distance leaning athletes coming down to the 8, but it's really cool to see somebody thrive and excel on that sprint. It's a different muscle group almost. And both are pretty equally important because the 800 is kind of right there in that slot where you need both speed and endurance. It is kind of like a long sprint. Oh, that's impressive. I mean, looking at that clip, just seeing the level of relaxation and good form that she's carrying through that bodes well, and it shows you why she's Keely. It shows you why she's got records in her name and is one of the best 800 runners ever.
I'm not surprised. Like the way she runs the 800, though, is very different from a lot of other people. She's a speed-based 800-meter runner. She's one of those half milers that really shows the intersections between, like, I think sprints and mid distance. And it's also, I think, a big reason why people like to argue that 800 is not a distance race. They find it hard to fathom a distance race under 2 minutes. And I sometimes couldn't agree more. It's a very hard sprint sometimes. I think if you look in certain instances, and Keely is kind of case in point for that argument. But like what I was trying to say is, like, I really would love to see her race her countrywoman of Amber Anning. I think Amber would win, but I would love to know what time Amber can pull Keely to, because Keely's also, she ain't scared. She's a dog. So I think she can, like, essentially be on her heels for a lot of that race. But we'll see. That's
and also
my little wish list.
I mean, also you have to understand, with that 800-meter endurance underneath her belt, she might be able to hang through that too. Like I just said, she just came through in 24. If someone pulls her through a little bit, I think it's 24 low. I couldn't see the exact split, but if someone pulls her through a little bit faster, you can trust that she's going to have a second half of the race to be able to be a lot stronger than whoever might be solely like a 2-4 type person. And then it's really just down to really, like you said, who's the dog, who's the biggest dog in this race at this point, and I would lean to the person with the 800-meter strength under their legs. But hey, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We gotta just put this in the atmosphere. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't.
We'll see. Well, we do know it will be a no puppies allowed zone, big dogs only.